Thank you, everyone, for joining AIA Santa Barbara's webinar on College of Fellows Path to Fellowship. First, I'd like to thank you for being here and taking your time this afternoon. The technical part, the pieces and the bits and the formation and all of that about the nomination, I'll go through rather quickly, about 20 minutes. And then that will allow us plenty of time for Q&A. And also allow the chapter fellows to talk about their experience and their path to fellowship. So first, I'd like to acknowledge the fellows that are here: Dennis Thompson, FAIA, Ken Ratke, FAIA, Cassandra Insberg, FAIA, and Michael Holliday, FAIA. And with that, you see my screen, so we will get started.
Hello to my esteemed colleagues in Santa Barbara. Some of you have been fellows for quite a long time, and I want to start by thanking you for your leadership over the years. Some of you are contemplating the path to fellowship. For those I haven't met, I'm Peter Exley, President of the American Institute of Architects. On behalf of the AIA, I want to welcome you. This little medal was a threshold in my career. It marked a milestone acknowledging my work and commitment to the practice of architecture. It also presented a marvelous opportunity. It precipitated heightened involvement and a level of engagement that has taken me to places previously unimagined, my role this year being one of those. Fellowship also comes with special responsibilities, as many of you know, and as some of you will find out through this gathering today. Fellowship comes with lots of different expressions too. Mentors, volunteers, counselors, design leaders, community anchors, individuals who are committed to the future of this association, and exemplars. Through the AIA's internal efforts, like the Members' Voice Task Force and countless other bodies through the years, fellows offer important insights and guidance. Through the AIA's programs, fellows help keep architects at the center of the conversation about climate, equity, fairness, policy, and public health. I want to look beyond the conversation about climate, equity, fairness, policy, and public health, though, and say the time for conversation is over. Our actions today at this crossroads matter incalculably. Our actions matter incalculably because we can, in fact, calculate the environmental degradation of our world. Our actions matter indubitably because structures and systems of oppression can only be changed from within. What do I mean? Politics and partisanship still distract us from our responsibilities as citizens of the world. Occupational boundaries still limit our imaginations and our effectiveness. Money and economic inequality still carve valleys between us. Half of the world can only do so much to help, and the other half must fight over so little opportunity. How we resolve our issues is still a work in progress, but I can tell you how we will resolve them. We'll resolve them as committed architects in our communities. If I have one message for those of you early on in this pathway, and to the veterans of this group, it is that every one of us shares in the same basic responsibilities: to think, to act, and ultimately to serve. The AIA, for which I speak, has committed so many of its resources to sustainability, climate action, and building a more equitable and just world. Architects, through our training and by the nature of our work, are afforded so many opportunities to accomplish these ends. Opportunities to create net zero and net positive buildings. Opportunities to create healthier spaces and places that complement nature rather than dominate or destroy nature. Opportunities to rewrite codes and regulations. Opportunities to treat the people who work for us fairly. Opportunities to work only with ethical actors and positive influences. and opportunities to be influencers ourselves. In the parlance of social media today, being an influencer fits the role of a fellow rather nicely. So let's do that. And as a body, let's move together to think, to act, and to serve. Thank you.
So we will cover the path in the following areas. We'll talk a little bit about the college. We'll talk in detail about the submission, your nomination. We'll talk about how the jury interacts with that nomination and their internal process. We'll discover some myths and a few strategies about how you can be successful. We'll identify some resources to you that you can check out and follow up with. And then finally, we'll open the floor for a Q&A session with the fellows that are here with us today. So the College of Fellows, I got to move this box out of the way so I can see what I'm doing. College of Fellows is made up of basically 4 people. Oops, hold on a second. I think I skipped one. Nope. Basically made up of 4 people. The Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor, the Secretary, and the Treasurer, or bursars, they call them. These individuals are elected by the College of Fellows at their annual meeting, which was just recently held. The advancement from Vice Chancellor, Secretary, and Treasurer works much like it does here in the Santa Barbara chapter, and that is once you're elected as the Secretary, you automatically advance to Treasurer, automatically advance to Vice President, automatically advance to President, and then you serve as a past President. Your submission can be crafted around 6 objects. Before 2020, the objects were 5. But the college, in an effort to focus education, literature, and research, created the 6th category. So you can submit an object 1, design, object 2, practice, management, or technical advancements, object 3, leading the institute or a related organization, object 4, advancement in living standards. That sounds kind of funny as an object. We'll talk about that when we get to it. Object 5, alternative career, which might include volunteerism or service to society. And then finally 6, education, literature, or research. Object 1, design. This can be a rather challenging object to obtain because the basis is that we are all architects already and function with design. In this category, you have to be exceptionally good designer, someone who has gained state, national, and potentially international recognition for your work. It includes, of course, design, urban design, and preservation. And the jury is looking for that recognition through the number of awards, publications, and exposure that you've been able to obtain in that work. And your submission of the exhibits required have to have at least 5 that the candidate was directly involved in. Object number 2 is practice or management. This is a firm leader, principal in a firm who leads their firm, maybe not necessarily in the design part of it, but maybe as the managing partner or managing firm leader, manages the business, the people, the HR, that kind of a thing. And that the work that you have accomplished shows the advancement of the profession through the technical and innovative work of your firm. Awards are less important in this regard because I don't know of a single award to a principal of a firm because they did excellent firm management. I don't think there is such an award. So awards are less important, but presentations, publications are important, where you've addressed the society, where you've addressed your counterparts in good management of an architectural practice. Number 3, led the institute or related organization. This is where you've devoted your career basically to leading the American Institute of Architects. You started out at a local board level, you moved to a state board level, you moved to a national level, served on national committees, been engaged nationally, and you can show through that engagement your impact on the betterment of society. Or if you've led a related organization, related organization might be the Association of General Contractors, builders, that kind of allied organization. Number 4, advancement in living standards. They changed the name on this, so it is kind of misleading, but it means that you're in the public sector. So government, public sector, or related organization, architect. That's me. This is the category for which I was elevated. You document the benefit to the Institute nationally through your policy work. You illustrate your work to the society and the profession in general. And as some on this call will know, the work that you get to share might be the work of a design architect who was employed to execute the work for you as a government official. Alternative career is kind of a catch group. If you don't fit into any one of those other ones, almost everybody can fit into this one, where you document your volunteer and service to society. You demonstrate that your contributions are significant because of that involvement, and that it's clear that you were not using the volunteer or alternate career path as a way to gain work. It wasn't a marketing ploy, in other words. So service on a review board like HLC, Architectural Review Board, Design Committee, Water Board, these public review boards is where you would capture this to show your impact to society. And finally, number 6, which is new, if you're in the education world, then you show your impact through the teaching tools and the students' work, the impact you've made on the students, and therefore they're carrying out of the effort through literature, through your writing, screenplays, movie, whatever it is, or research. If you're involved in research of technologies to improve the profession, the building process, and positively impacting society because of it, this category is for you. All right, so what are the elements that make up a submission? I want to say here that you should be prepared, and some of the fellows in the Q&A may speak to this as well. You should be prepared to be on an emotional soul searching as you put this document together. You're looking in the rearview mirror over a number of years, and it can bring up memories and experiences that might be good, might be bad. You don't know, but you're going to go through it, and that is to be expected. So your submission is made up of basically 4 pieces. You've got a sponsor letter, or 5 pieces. You got a sponsor letter. You have a summary statement, statement of significance of work, exhibits, and reference letters. So your sponsor, it should be a fellow or a member in good standing. Doesn't have to be a fellow. It doesn't make your submission any stronger if your sponsor is not a fellow. But I suppose prudence would say, since you're going for fellowship, it would be good to have a sponsor as a fellow. This person should know you best, should be your worst critic, someone who knows the breadth of your work and is knowledgeable about the details of that work, somebody who's been following your career for a while and encouraging you and spurring you on. The sponsor letter is limited to 1 page. It should provide coordination and feedback to the nomination. The sponsor writes their own letter, but in concert with how your nomination is coming together. A sponsor can be so to more than one person, and also is responsible to wrangle your reference letters. So the sponsor has a little bit of work. So you need to pick somebody who's willing to step in, and somebody who has maybe done it before will recognize that workload. Otherwise, you might have to counsel them a bit. This is probably the most difficult page to do in the entire submission. You have a single page basically to make your case. You have to show a very clear thread. I call it, the golden thread. The golden thread has to clearly be seen from the very beginning of the nomination all the way through the reference letters. And if that is a bright line, a gold thread, easily seen, jury doesn't have to work for it, then your chances of elevation in the first round or two are high. If you make the jury work for trying to figure out what your case is, then the likelihood of you not being elevated is high. So make your case, make it clear and clean, focus on a couple of points, make reference to the Section 2 accomplishments and Section 3 exhibits, and highlight the ripple effect. And what's meant by that is, how did your work affect society or the profession? Not just here in Santa Barbara and not just here in California, but across the country. You have to be able to clearly show that, and that's part of that golden thread that in order to illustrate what that ripple effect is. Significance of work. This is kind of, you boil it down and say, this is your resume. It is broken into 3 sections: significant work, honors, awards, and recognition, and publications. These could be either of you or about you, from you. Need to clearly demonstrate the broad influence and impact. Again, that golden thread. I'm going to hammer that theme, the golden thread, through, because it really is important to make these connections, show that ripple effect. The jury needs to be able to quickly see what your story is and how it has had an effect on the profession. You should support your case in this information. So the work elements, the resume of work, the chronology of work, accomplishments, articles, awards in this Section 2 should support your case. The Section 2 can have, it has a page limit. I think it's about 10 or 15 pages. And you can list from the latest to the earliest elements of your work, project A, project B, project C, this conference, that conference, another conference, magazine 1, magazine 2, magazine 3, award A, B, C, D, etc. And you list them from the latest one that you received until the oldest one you've received. And it's not important to document your entire life cycle of your career. What's important is to nominate the projects and accomplishments that support your case. And so you have to keep that in mind. It's not just a laundry list of everything you've ever done. Exhibits. This is where the detail happens. So from that Section 2, you're going to have a list of projects in chronological order, all of those projects that fit your case. And then you're going to pull at least 10 of those projects out and make them exhibits. And the exhibit is a maximum of 2 pages. The first page is a statement of what the project is, and how you solved it, what you were trying to solve, in just a couple of paragraphs. It has a block on it somewhere on that page where someone other than you is acknowledging and, under oath kind of a thing, that yes, you did what you said you were doing in that description. And then page 2 are graphics, photographs, drawings, elements, details that help to give the jury a sense of what the project was. In object number 1, you have to have at least 5 projects that you directly were involved in. You designed either as an individual or the lead designer in a firm, and you were directly responsible for those projects. All other exhibits, you can have projects, you don't need 5, you could have 1. In my case, it was policy work, so I had a few projects, one of them designed by a fellow on this call that I used as an example, and then various policy projects that I had worked on. And then provide, one of those money shots. Everybody likes great photography. So, in your exhibit, pick one shot that's really going to convey the quality of that project and thus your work on that project. Reference letters. So just before I jump into this section, as you've seen, each one of these are sections. So there's section 1, which is your summary, section 2, accomplishments, section 3, exhibits, section 4, reference letters. You can have a cover to that section that will not count towards your page limit. It helps the jury orient themselves. Even a table of contents can help them orient themselves. Those pages don't count toward the page limit. References. So you have 3 years once you submit on your nomination to become elevated before you have to start over. Each year you add 3 letters to the previous submission of letters. So the first year is 7, second year is 10, and the third year is 13. Each of your reference writers should speak to your case, help make your case, and use an exhibit or 2 to illustrate your case through their endorsement. The letter is restricted to a single page. You can't go on and on and on. They want it to be concise. They want your reference writer to be concise, keep it short, and make sure that they drive home that golden thread that you're trying to get through the entire document. You can file this under myth. You don't need a star architect like Frank Lloyd Wright to write you a letter saying how wonderful you are. They just need to be real people who know you, and you might coach them or give them what you want them to write about, and then let them write that letter. All right, so putting it all together. You want to present a clear and concise nomination. You want to secure a strong and impactful sponsor. This is the opening salvo, if you will. The first missile over the bow is the sponsor's letter. You want to clearly communicate that you have a diverse and geographically broad impact. Your references, it is helpful that your references are geographically diverse, that they're not all from Santa Barbara. You've got one from Santa Barbara, one from London, another one from New York, somebody from Chicago. whoever you know and are your contacts, and they're willing to write a reference letter for you. It's good that you show diversity across the country. Again, make sure the story thread is woven all the way through. Show the ripple effect. Show how your work in particular has made that national impact possible, and you will be successful getting through. So the jury. The jury is made up of members that are geographically located in the AIA major sectors. I believe there's 7 of them. And there's north, south, east, west, and a couple broken up there in the middle. When you file as a California candidate, someone from the north, the south, or the east are going to be reviewing your application. The California or the West Coast representative does not. Each of these jury members, has a fistful of candidates to review. It's the one you're assigned to that will spend the most time with your application. When the jury meets, they'll only spend about 10 minutes in deliberation when they meet in Washington, D.C. I think this is in January, late December or January. They'll only spend 10 minutes on your nomination. If it isn't clear, if that golden thread isn't shiny, then they'll take a vote and determine if you're going to be elevated or not. And the way that vote happens is, skip forward here a second, apologize. The way that vote happens is that 6 members of the 7, your advocate sits out the vote. 6 members will vote. A majority of those 6 results in the nomination, which is 4. And a unanimous vote is not required. If you don't get a unanimous vote or there's a tie, then they'll set your nomination aside for that session, get all the way through all of them for the session, and then pick the ones they set aside, back up and see if there's some fresh eyes on it. If they see something different, somebody made a point or illustrated something on your behalf, they'll take another vote. But it will take 4 votes for you to become elevated. So again, what's the jury looking for? They're looking for a national impact. They're looking for a ripple effect. They're looking for your involvement in the AIA. To be eligible to file for fellowship, you need 10 cumulative years, not consecutive. You don't need 10 years in a row. You can be in AIA 2 years, off 5 years, back into, off another, back in. As long as you have 10 cumulative years, you're okay. They're looking for your impact to society, a strong body of work, and strong support letters and references. So a few myths and strategies. So a myth, it's best if all fellows write reference letters. No, that's not true. You don't need reference letters from fellows. It's helpful if you know fellows and they want to write a letter for you, but not required. They just have to be AIA members in good standing. And I've got to reinforce that good standing. Your nomination is due roughly in October, the year before elevation. So if you submit a nomination this year, 2021, you'll be elevated in 2022, or the class of 2022. You submitted in October, as I said. Between October and December, when the jury meets, AIA College of Fellows staff will be checking out your story. The first thing they'll do is to check your sponsor letter and your reference letters to see if they're good members in standing of the Institute. If they're not, then your nomination will never reach the jury. So it's very important to make sure that your reference writers and your sponsor are members in good standing. That is, they are a member of the Institute, and there are no issues with them. Dues or disciplinary action or any of that business. They're members in good standing. I can't reinforce that enough. A number of nominations never reach the jury because your sponsor and references are not members in good standing. Do your reference letters only have to be AIA members? In the first round, yes, they do. In the second round, you can add 3 more letters, and the closer you get to round 3, the fewer architects you need. You need others, but they don't need to be AIA members. You don't have to worry about getting big names. It doesn't help you. It doesn't make it better. And if you're going for Object 1, if you don't have a national award, at least one, you're not getting elevated in design, Object 1. Local awards are not good enough. And the jury is not looking to fill any quotas. You know, that's an often, you know, something people say often. Well, they're only looking for so many of these or so many of that, or so many people from New York or so many. No, they're not. There are no quotas. It basically is on the strength of your story, how well you told it, and how convincing you've supported your case. All right, so some of these begin to repeat, as you can see. You know, just make sure you create your nomination so it's clear and concise. Ensure that all of the sections are coordinated. It's just like doing working drawings, right? You want to make sure that all the sheets are coordinated, the detail keys are coordinated. You know, if you say there's a reference somewhere and somebody goes to see the reference is actually there. Make sure that it's all internally coordinated. Instruct your reference writers to focus on a key element. You don't want all the reference writers writing about the same thing. You want your reference writers to write about different parts of your case so that you get it all covered. And of course, it's actually to and not toe. You don't want to toe the third party. You want 2 or 3 good third party reviewers to read and comment on your nomination. Now, you know, these nominations are really personal. You know, that you put a lot into it. You know, you put a lot into your career getting here, and so you put a lot into this nomination. So I would just advise, don't get too attached to it. Allow your third-party reviewers to give you some honest feedback of whether or not they're getting your case. That's what you want them to see. Do you get my case? Am I telling my story? Is it clear from beginning to end? And then start your nomination as early as possible. If you're thinking of filing in this year, you should already be working on this nomination. And if that's not the case, then I would get working on it now, work through the nomination in 2022 for the 2023 class. It might not take you that long, but you won't be rushed and have to crank it out and get it submitted. So some facts. Fellows in your chapter, those who are on this call, you can reach out to them. You know, it is part of our charge as fellows to be mentors and encourage you to file. If you're thinking of filing, I'm sure that there's a fellow on this call or a fellow that you know that you can say, hey, what do you think? And they'll give you some honest feedback. Yeah, I think your story is strong, or yeah, maybe not. AIA California also has a number of resources. I am a California rep of the College of Fellows for Southern California, so you can reach out to me for sure if you need help. And also be aware that not all nominations are elevated in the first round. It took me all 3 rounds to become elevated. It was a chore and arduous. I think some of the fellows will talk about their experience in a minute. And then, of course, nationally, there are all kinds of resources. If you're thinking of going for one of these objects, look on the national website, College of Fellows website, and find an example. They post examples that they think meet the mark, and you could go get one of those examples and read it, and that might help you craft your nomination. Here are those resources. And I think we can post these up on the AIA Santa Barbara Fellows webpage for you as well. The 2 chapters in California that really do this really, really well, AIA Los Angeles and AIA San Francisco. And with that, we'll open the floor to questions and invite the fellows. I'll stop sharing my screen now that we know that we're here. And invite the fellows to maybe share a few words about their experience. And to make this easy, why don't we take the fellow who's been the fellow the longest in our crowd, and then work our way towards 2018, and that's Mr. Holliday.
Okay, I'll take my 2 minutes here. Thanks, Robert. Very informative, nice. I like the video entry. Did you set that up? Is that just something for our chapter that he did?
Yeah, I sent an email to Peter. You know, he's a pal of mine. I said, Peter, we're doing this webinar. Would you say an introduction? He said, sure.
Yeah, no, that was awesome. And if you learn something every time, I think we go through this, so it's good that we're elevating. I didn't realize object 4 is now object 5. So yeah. nice overview and update. So, but for me, I can say a little bit. Who nominates you, and well, I guess I should say, I thought it was going to be impossible for any Santa Barbara architect to achieve fellow after Ken Kruger got his nomination 28 years before I got mine in 2012, or yeah, 2012. And many people had applied, you know, including a lot of noteworthy architects that had been rejected. And so, you know, it was whether this glass ceiling could be broken or not, no one really knew. For me, I've been working quite a bit with Larry Scarpa down in Los Angeles, and he and I are classmates from school, and he was the one who nominated me. And of course, you always feel unworthy. And of course, he puts me in the design category, object 1, because that's what he's won 50 some awards, 5 national awards. Like, you know, hey, Mike, you're a great designer, you know. And I got rejected my first year, and they said, you got an awesome story, but the wrong category. And I got absolutely zero support. This whole thing didn't even exist when we got started. If anything, I thought I'm just wasting my time. And I think what Robert talked about is sort of really, it's, you know, we're not used to doing this so much as architects, but sort of pitching our own story. That's something that I think Robert mentioned that's really going to be, you know, happening. But just long story short, after the first year, they really schooled me that said, hey, you should be an object 4, which at that time was service to society. And so, and Ken Kruger was really kind of my big advocate and helped me a little bit, but I basically had to figure this out on my own. LA, by the way, has a similar chapter. I learned some stuff from AIA LA because they've got some good resources. But anyway, that's how when I was just looking at that, here's Ken Kruger's memorial service. So he called me and the fellows he found out that I'd been a fellow before I did. I was walking on the harbor, and he called me and he said, congratulations. And I was really pretty blown away that he would think of me in that way, because we have 2 fellows in the AIA chapter now. And, you know, and then he died in 2014. So literally a year and a half later, he passed away. So I was sort of thankful to be able to do that. And then I said, okay, Robert, we got to get things going. And he had been, so that was the beginning of this. And so I helped Robert and was involved with that. So, and then once Robert and I got involved, I said, okay, it's not just a one-man show anymore. And so I think then we had talked about Cass and Dennis and Ken. You guys have kind of grown the fellowship quite a bit. So that's kind of my story. And, you know, I sort of feel honored. This is something you earn every day. You know, in some ways it's sort of the lifetime achievement award in our profession, but in the other way, what they told me, we got our commencement ceremony was at the Washington National Cathedral. So you're literally in your black robe and you get a gold medal around your neck. And one of the things he said, he goes, think of this not so much as it is a sort of a lifetime achievement award, but really go back and look for the next generation of great architects.
Mhm.
And this is a chance to really mentor them and school them and work with them, which is what I'm doing here in my firm with everybody. We got several Cal Poly, the 4th and 5th year people working with us now. So we're trying to do that and pay it forward kind of thing. So that's kind of my story.
Thank you, Michael. Cass, I think you're up next.
Well, actually, it was you, Robert, but
Robert, you're
Well,
up.
you heard my story from the spiel, so I don't need to talk again.
Okay. Well, I'm really interested in hearing from the others who are here what kind of questions they would have. So I'll just keep it really short. But and Robert, you did such a beautiful job, as Michael has said, to explain all this really, really well. And I was tapped by Robert. He nominated me in 2015, and this was in, I believe, around July of 2015. So there wasn't any time to waste, had to get right on it and just go for it. Robert was amazing in being my sponsor, and also we met like every week. So during that time, from July until the time that you submit, which is in October, the first part of October, we met every week, and I just cranked on it for that entire time. I was in the Object 5, Service to Society, for my work and my passion about the importance of art and architecture, which I, continue again as Peter, our president, said. It's just the beginning. Once you are a fellow, then it just pushes you forward to do even more, and it just is a really incredible, I guess, support and urging and, necessitating that moving forward and continuing with, it gives you the ability to have more behind you to do more about what it is you are here for, which is, of course, the service to society. And I appreciated what he said, the think, act, and serve. It's the service and continuing to make our world a better world. So anyway, I pushed the button in October, and Robert helped me with that. I was so nervous, as I'm sure all of you were. And then I actually was elevated in 2016. So was successful in reaching that goal. I had so much support. Michael was one of my letter writers, and just so many people were behind me and helped me to get there. And that's what it's all about. And we are here for all of you, and want to continue to help you to see the golden thread in all of you. So
Awesome.
We're here to help. And that's my story. I was elevated in Philadelphia, and it was just the most amazing experience, and continue to be very honored and proud, and want to do everything I can to help others.
Thanks,
So
Cass.
Yeah.
Ken, I think you're next.
Okay, I think my story is very similar to our colleagues here, so I won't belabor that too much. I was elevated, as they say, in 2018 in Object 2, and the sort of the category of that was advancing the science and art of the profession. And so I think that sort of like there's some kind of artistic and technical aspects of what was discussed. I think the part that I would like to mention that's good for us to see each other, sort of our fellow friends and our architect friends here, is that like if someone were attending this meeting who's 25 and thinking about this, because Robert, you talk about this as something that one would aspire to. I think that you're kind of soul searching or trying to make sense of what you're about, looking to the future. and then later you're sort of taking stock, you're soul searching and trying to make sense of what you've done regarding the past. And I think that there's sort of like a whole bunch of ideas surrounding that, like, what's my mission statement? What was my mission statement? Who do I want to be as an architect? And all of us can benefit from that, whether it's about fellowship or just our doing the good work. I see Dennis on here, who's got a great lifetime of work that if you take stock of it, I mean, I remembered stuff like in taking stock, you remember things that you had literally forgotten about, things that had taken like a year of your life. And it's like, oh, wow, I totally forgot that year,
Yeah.
And you say, oh, I'm glad I did that because I actually, it meant something. So I really would encourage anyone who's thinking about this topic, whether it leads to fellowship or not, the collaboration, the interaction with others, to support. I wrote a letter for Robert. He nominated me later. It all adds to the quality and richness of your life and of your work. And I really think that holistic approach will serve any of us well.
Thank you, Ken. And Dennis?
Yeah, thanks, Robert. I've got to credit Robert Uli as being the sort of Johnny Appleseed of fellows in Santa Barbara. He's really the best support system and encouragement. So he encouraged me early on to apply. And what was important for me was to get a sponsor who had known me for my entire career, which was at that time 40 some years. So I found John Kelly, who's a former AIA chapter president, AIA member, and I'd known John since the 70s. And what was great about him is he and I had been in several of activities and organizations together. Mine was also Object 5, and the topic was teaching, speaking, and advocating about sustainability. And John had been on this path with me. So John had some graphics that I couldn't find. And that was very helpful because I was, I have some exhibits from the 70s and the 80s, and some of that took some research on my own. I think I had to go to UCSB library to find a couple of pictures from the early days of CEC. So I'll just add that my letters of reference were almost everybody on the screen here. All of you helped me with letters, but I also got Ed Masria, who, I thought it was important to have someone of his stature because for me, I knew it was a stretch to have that some national influence. And so I was able to do that perhaps through some of my buildings having been visited by people from around the country and so forth. But I also thought it was helpful to have Ed Masria, a national figure. I also had the mayor as a letter of support. So she was not an AIA member, and I think that's okay to do that. So yes, I would be willing and happy to speak with anyone beyond this meeting who's interested in doing this. I'd be glad to help.
Thank you, Dennis. And I'd point out part of your story, Dennis, was I think you were involved in a local panel discussion that included Ed early on. I think that was at Marjorie Luke, I want to. Right.
Yeah,
So
I met Ed in New Mexico and invited him to come here and put together that whole event or two events like that.
So it just wasn't a random ask for him to do a letter for you. He knew of you and had a good connection. All right, so we'll take the next, 10 minutes and open the floor to questions. You're welcome just to chime in or send them through the chat, whichever way you're comfortable.
I've got to sign off right at noon. I got a 1 o'clock I've got to get on. So.
All right. Thank you, Michael. I appreciate your time.
Yeah.
It would be nice if we could see everyone's face on this call. Turn on your video. Make sure you're really there.
Gallery view, Dennis, you'll be able to see everyone.
Well,
And-
most of them were blanked out. They had turned off their video. There they are. There they are.
I know that that was a very thorough presentation, but it couldn't possibly have answered every question that you might have. So what's important, I think what's important for emerging professionals, kind of along the line that Mr. Radke was talking about, and that is kind of chart your path now. You know, if becoming a fellow is part of your career plan, first of all, there's no age restriction. If you believe that your story is strong now, then you can file for fellowship now. There's an example that graduates from Harvard, I don't know, a dozen years ago, a few graduates from Harvard, when they graduated, they filed for fellowship and were elevated. You know, so, you know, it all depends on what your path is and where you want to be and how you're going to get there. But as you're traveling this path, you know, keep mindful of the things that are going to help make your case. Gather those up, keep them organized, know where they are, because it's much easier to gather it while you're doing it than it is some years later to have to track it down. All right. Well, if there are no questions, you know how to get a hold of us. If you don't, then you can get a hold of Tara, and she knows how to get a hold of us. And you can find resources on the AIA Santa Barbara website. I appreciate everybody's time. Fellows, have a great afternoon. Everybody else, have a great afternoon. Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you so much.
Thank you all.